क्या मैम प्ले द वीडियो
Recording in progress.
A very pleasant good evening, namaste, salam, and a gracious welcome to all the eminent guests for today's wonderful event. With due respect, I welcome the founder, director, engineer Mr. Ravi Shankar sir, a man of vision and who believes that space is a drawing board where a kid can make anything with his or her imagination and can explore indefinitely. He is passionate, motivated to take the foundation ahead on the journey of self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, educating and helping students to build their own space project. To welcome you, sir, to brief you all about the Idym Foundation, that is igniting dream of young mind, is it provides a platform to all the schools and college students to dream and explore about space and satellite. It is on an initiative to help them build and develop their own satellites. With hands-on experiment, IDYM is on a vision to empower the young mind to unmask and uncover their latent potential, starting with the first step, that is dream. IDYM has successfully organized 200 workshops in the last 1 month, covering all the 29 states of India, along with the international workshops in 20 countries. With enormous delight, now I would like to welcome our incredible and capable young researchers from the Department of Sociology, Faculty of Arts, the Maharaja Siaji Rao University of Baroda. Today, we are on this responsible operation for the sustainable, to bring about the sustainable solutions to the problems which we all are facing. So, with this, we'll start our today's program, and we ensure that we are on the right path. And we have analyzed that under the 17 SDGs, which contribute the most, are either increasing the positive impact or minimizing the negative impact. One of the major SDGs which need to be taken most of the care is life on land, that is SDG 15. So, with this, I would like to call upon my first speaker for today's evening, Akansha Bahu. Akansha,
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'm Akanksha Booch. Along with my colleagues, Saloni Shroff, Paul Thomas, and Ashmita Singh, I would like to extend our warm welcome to everyone who's present here today. We are first-year MA students of Department of Sociology at the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda. Before starting the presentation, I would like to express my gratitude to IDYM and Department of Sociology for giving me this wonderful opportunity today. Ma'am, would you please share the screen?
yes, yes.
humans are the greatest problem solvers to have existed on Earth. Before moving forward, I would like to invite you to have a look at this video that not only questions the notion, but also provides an evidence of a miracle.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up and built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of as soon as that started moving in, the number of songbirds started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transformed not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land.
It's a request, Akansha, unmute yourself, Akansha.
So sorry. As we reflect on the video, which serves as an example of how nature has a way of balancing itself out, isn't it about time to introduce metaphorical wolves across the planet? Ma'am, next slide, the earlier slide, please. So diving right into the presentation, there are going to be 6 parts to it. First, we would be understanding our sustainable development goals, and then we'll be moving forward to understanding the 15th sustainable goal, and then we would be moving to understanding land on biodiversity, forest, animals, and then finally the conclusion. Next slide, please. The world currently faces severe environmental, social, and economic challenges of unprecedented complexity. The picture in front of you is a photo of deforestation in the forests of Germany from 1995 to 2020. Caused by bark beetle infestation due to increasing temperatures and severe drought. As the horrors long predicted by scientists are becoming realities, close to 800 million people are living with hunger, and 1.2 billion people live under extreme poverty. More than half of the world's arable land is degraded, undermining livelihood for at least 1.5 billion people. Climate change affects human welfare everywhere, even threatening basic human survival in some areas. Next slide, please. So, to address these complex challenges, the resolution Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, was adopted by General Assembly of the United Nations in September 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals is the direct successor of the Millennium Developmental Goals. The MDGs were highly criticized by scholars because they were narrow conception of development. This was seen as a simplification of many causes. Agenda 2030 is different. Its 17 SDGs and their 169 targets are ambitious, broad, and as the UN puts it, indivisible. It is intended to address global threats like climate change. It predicts sustainable production patterns that are inclusive and effective. Now, what is the 15th Sustainable Development Goal? As David Douglas, a British botanist, says, what we are doing to the forest of the world is but a mirror reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another. I repeat, what we are doing to the forest of the world is but a mirror reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and one another. Forests cover nearly 31% of our planet's land area. From the air we breathe, to the water we drink, to the food we eat, forest sustains us. Plant life provides 80% of human diet, and we rely on agriculture as an important economic resource. It is inhabited by millions of species and is an important source of clean air and water. It is also very crucial for combating climate change. As studies show, every year 13 million hectares of forests are lost. Persistent degradation of dry land has led to desertification affecting poor communities. Only 15% of the land is protected and biodiversity is still at risk. Thus, the 15th Sustainable Development Goal is all about sustainably managing forests, fight desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss.
Thank you so much, Akansha, for your insightful input and a wonderful start for today's talk. How meticulously you have researched your content and how properly you have managed everything. Thank you once again, Akansha. Moving ahead with our next speaker for today's talk show is Saloni, who loves to paint and is interested in the charity work. She is here to throw a light upon one of the most important gift of nature, that is land. Over to you, Saloni.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Saloni Shroff. Currently, I am pursuing my master's in sociology from MSc of Baroda. So, before moving further, I would like to thank Idym Group of Foundation and my Department of Sociology for providing such a beautiful opportunity. So, today I will start with elaborating the term land and try to explain how our land has been exploited and how it has been abused and what are the outcomes due to such harmful causes. So as we all know that land is a factor of production and it is a very free gift of nature to the mankind. Land is defined as everything in the universe that is not created by the human beings. It includes more than the mere surface of the earth. Air, sunlight, forest, earth, water, and minerals are all classified as land, all as are all the manners of the natural resources and opportunities that are not created by the people. Here, out of all the natural resources, land is certainly the most important and a free gift of the nature. Man and other living beings use it for their habitations. It is also the basis of the most of the primary activities which are so essential for the human existence. Land is not regarded as simple in the terms of soil and the surface topography, but encompasses such features as underlying superficial deposits, climates, and water resources, and also the plants and animal communities which have developed as a result of the interaction with the physical conditions. The result of the human activities reflected by the changes in the vegetative covers or by the structures are also regarded as a feature of land by changing any one factor like such as land use, there will be the impact on the other factors as well, like the flora and fauna, soils, surface of the water distribution, and the climate. So land use is characterized by the arrangements, activities, and the inputs by the people to produce or maintain a certain land cover type. So land use is defined in this way, establishes a direct link between the land cover and the actions of the people in their environment. Changes in these factors can be readily explained by the ecosystem dynamics, and the importance of the relationships in planning and management of the land resources has become increasingly evident. So the potential production of the arable land and its susceptibility to the degradation are dependent on the management strategies employed and inherent soil and other characteristics. So when the population in a given area increases, the increased demand on the production can include stress and consequent degradation of the land resources. If no other source of income can be tapped, people's standard of living can be decreased. And however, if improved management strategies are available, either the standard of living may rise or many people can be supported at the same standard of living without the disturbance or the deterioration of the natural resource base. It follows that an ample supply of the land of suitable quality and appropriate production technologies are essential if the increasing demands of a growing population are to be met. Currently, our land resources are clearly under stress. 16% of the arable land is degraded, and the percentage is still in increase. This is because the traditional system of the land management is been broken down or are no longer available or they appropriate, and the management and technologies needed to replace them is always not available. The primary reason for the situation is the increasing demands placed on the land by the unprecedented rate of the population growth and the effect it induces. Externalities related to global change are also becoming a constraint and sustainable land management. So here we will now look at how our land resources are in danger. What are the causes of the land pollution? Like we can talk about the deforestation. So deforestation is carried out to create the dry lands is one of the major concerns. Land that is once converted into dry or barren land can never be made fertile again, whatever the magnitude of the measures to redeem it is. Also, there is a constant waste of land. Unused available land for years turn barren, and this land cannot be used. So, in search of the more land, potent land is hunted, and its indigenous state is compromised. Secondly, we can say that with the growing human population, the demand for the food has as well increased. So as with the increased demand of the food, The farmers often use highly toxic fertilizers and pesticides to get rid of the insects, fungi, and bacteria from their crops. However, with the overuse of these chemicals, they result in contamination and also the soil poisoning. Now, the other reason can be the landfills, overcrowded landfills. Each household produces tons of garbage each year. Garbage like aluminium, plastics, paper, cloth, wood, etc. are collected and sent to the local recycling unit. Items that cannot be recycled become a part of the landfills that hampers the beauty of the city and cause the land pollution. Similarly, due to the increase in the demand of food, shelter, and house, more goods are produced. This resulted in the creation of
Bye, baby.
more waste that needs to be disposed
Okay,
of.
baby.
To meet the demand of the growing population, more industries were developed which relate to
Love you.
deforestation and
It's a
research.
request,
Khayal rakhna.
participants. It's a request to mute yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, Saloni, you can continue.
Yeah, ma'am. So it becomes very difficult to meet the demand of the growing population. So for that, industries are developed, and due to the industries, deforestations have been done. So research and development paved the way for the modern fertilizers and chemicals that were highly toxic and led to the soil contamination. So we have been making permanent settlements for at least the past 10,000 years. Most of the cities and towns and the infrastructure created will remain with us for thousands of more years in the future. Many of us may not classify human settlement as the land pollution. However, urbanization marks a significant change to the landscape that can cause land pollution in a variety of subtle and non-subtle ways. So these are the harmful causes which can lead to the disastrous effects like soil pollution, groundwater poisoning, drinking water problems, change in the climate patterns, effects on the human health, animal health, and everything. So these are the harmful causes which we have looked. Now we will move forward to the next slide, ma'am. Yeah. So here we will look at the solutions. These are the amazing solutions which we can apply, and we can take the first initiative step to control the land pollution. So we can make people aware about the reduce, recycle, and reuse concept. Like reusing materials help to reduce the requirement of harvesting resources. The products that cannot be reused can likely to be recycled. So reusing materials help to reduce the requirements of harvesting resources. Reduce the use of pesticides and fertilizers in agricultural activities. Reduce the use of non-biodegradable materials by simply switching to a reusable cloth bags for groceries instead of the plastic bags. Will help to cut down on the need of the non-biodegradable materials. So recently, our Department of Sociology has celebrated the Earth Day by distributing the cloth bags and create awareness among the people regarding the harmful causes of the plastic bags, and has taken the first step to protect our land from exploitation and been abused. So a flourishing life on land is the foundation for our life on this planet. We, we are all the part of the planet's ecosystem, and we have caused severe damages to it through deforestation, loss of natural habitats, and the land degradation. Promoting a sustainable use of our ecosystem and preventing biodiversity is not a cause. It is a key to our own survival. So by 2030, combat desertification, resort degrade lands and soil, including land affected by desertification, drought, and floods, and strive to achieve a land degradation, a neutral world. So here I would like to quote some saying like, we do not inherit the land from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. I like to repeat it again, like, we do not inherit the land from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. So that's it from my part. I hope you like my part, and thank you for your listening, active listening, and your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Saloni. It was an excellent insight and it was pleasure listening to you. And I truly agree with the quote which you have just mentioned. आओ मिलकर कले संकल्प, आओ मिलकर करे संकल्प, पृथ्वी को बचाना है एकमात्र विकल्प. With, with this, we move to our next speaker for today's evening, Paul Thomas, a passionate budding researcher, aspiring sociologist, hardworking student who wants to bring change in the social structure of the society. So, Paul will be throwing light on the topic forest. Yes, over to Paul.
Good evening, everyone. Before starting my topic, I would like to thank Idym for giving me this opportunity, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda for providing me with this platform, and the Department of Sociology and its faculty members for showing the faith in me. So starting with the term forest. A forest is a complex ecological system in which trees are the dominant life. Forests are vital to life on Earth. They purify the air we breathe, filter the water we drink, prevent erosion, and act as an important buffer against climate change. Forests offer a home to much of the world's diverse array of plants and animals, timber and food, to medicinal plants. Forests also support the lives of local communities and help them to thrive. Now, different type of forest and how they have taken a part of land on Earth. So here are three different type of forest. So starting with the first forest, that is temperate forest. Temperate forests are located at mid latitudes, which give them the characteristic four seasons. Very few patches of old growth temperate forest remain in today's time. This zone is dominated by secondary forest. Now, secondary forests are forests regenerating largely through natural processes after significant removal or disturbance of the original forest vegetation, which is done by either humans or which has happened naturally. These type of forests are found in New York, Seattle, London, Paris, and Tokyo. And as of the report of 2020, temperate forests are accounted for 16% of the Earth's total forest. Now coming to the second forest, that is a tropical rainforest. Located between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, tropical forests are some of the most biodiverse ecosystem on Earth. Though these forests cover only 6% of the surface of the planet, about 80% of species which are endangered and species who are living are found here. So deforestation here affects a lot more than other forests. Now coming to the third type of forest, that is boreal forest. From a biological perspective, boreal forests are defined as forests growing in high latitude where there are freezing temperatures, like Canada, Alaska, and Russia, and they cover 33% of the Earth's total forest area. Next slide, please. Now, importance and benefits from forest. Now, here you can see that we have divided the forest into uses of forest into three values, that is economic values, social values, and ecological values. Economic values, it helps in wood products, non-timber products, and social and ecological services. For social values, it helps in domestic uses and for recreation. And for ecological values, for our air, that is H2O, and soil. Now coming to importance of forest. Next slide, please. After oceans, forests are the world's largest storehouses of carbon. They absorb harmful greenhouse gases that produce climate change. In tropical forest alone, 250 billion tons of carbon is stored in above and below ground biomass. They also provide clean water for drinking, bathing, and other household needs. They also provide shelter to indigenous people. Forests and nature are also important for recreation and mental well-being. In many cultures, natural landscapes are closely linked to spiritual values, religious beliefs, and traditional teachings. Now, how we are exploiting forests, either it is by man-made or which happens naturally, but it is mostly man-made. So the first topic that I'm going to cover here is deforestation. Deforestation is the purposeful clearing of forest land throughout history and into modern times forests have been razed to make space for agriculture and animal grazing and to obtain wood for fuel, manufacturing and construction, industrial agriculture. Now, this was something which was historical. Now, coming to the current period, it is happening for urbanization, which we all can see, and also due to technology, industrialization is growing rapidly. Look no further than your dinner plate because industrial agriculture accounts for around 85% of deforestation worldwide. I repeat, look no further than your dinner plate because industrial agriculture accounts for around 85% of deforestation worldwide. Now, due to deforestation, this leads to climate change and soil erosion. Now, the next topic is that is forest fire, which is a burning issue and which is currently we can see. Now, what is forest fire? A wildfire, forest fire, bushfire is an unplanned, uncontrolled fire in an area of combustible vegetation starting in rural and urban areas. Now, what are the reasons of forest fire? High temperatures raise the flammability of dry grass, leaves, trunks, or pine tar. Strong winds speed up wildfire spreading. Again, climate change and droughts intensify and prolong forest fire. And this is something which happens naturally, that is lightning, which provokes ignition in dry forest trees. Now, some recent cases of forest fire. The first would be Uttarakhand, the forest fire which started a few days ago and it is still going on. Now, according to the Chhattisgarh Forest Department, 8,022 forests have been reported in the last 45 days, covering 16.87 square kilometer area. Now, speaking globally, the Arizona forests, the Amazon forest, which was previously on forest fire, and now Arizona, which is on forest fire. A study done by Council on Energy, Environment and Water called Managing Forest Fires in a Changing Climate found that there has been a 10-fold increase in forest fire in the past 2 decades, and more than 62% of Indian states are prone to high intensity forest fires. In the last month alone, significant forest fires have been reported in states such as Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan. The study also found that Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and Maharashtra are the most prone to high intensity forest fire events caused by rapid change in climate. A forest survey of India report in 2019 found that 36% of forests which are found in India falls into zones that are prone to forest fires. Unlike cyclones, floods, and earthquakes, which are big disasters, forest fire are not categorized as a natural disasters. This means that the forest authorities fall under the forest department and they are not staffed properly. They don't have the manpower to stop it. The proper manpower and the people who can deal with this is the National Disaster Management Authority. Now, a proposal was made in 2021, but the NDMA, the National Disaster Management Authority, have rejected it, and it is still 2022 and no further suggestions have been made. Now, what can we do? How can we be a part of it? So the first thing that we can do is we can report unattended fires. We can be a little mindful that after our campfire sites, we can extinguish fire properly. When we are using flammable liquids, we can be a little bit cautious. Now, coming to deforestation, what we can do is we can buy recycled products. We can support the products of companies that are committed to reducing deforestation. Now, as we all know, that the snacks we eat, the various chips we eat, they are all made of palm oil. And these palm oil trees are found in Africa. Now, every hour, the size of 300 football fields are cut down every day so that, palm oil can be made. So what we can do again is, we cannot cut it off completely, but we can reduce it on our part. The final solution, what we can do is that we can respect the rights of indigenous people, preserving, promoting, and elevating indigenous communities to the rightful place of prominence would help reduce deforestation. It makes more sense to grant them access to land which was inherently taken away from them, to begin with, that they will be able to fight for the protection of their forests legally. The indigenous people know how to make better use of it without damaging forest. Now, some suggestions. There should be more forest reserves so that these areas are protected with the indigenous flora and fauna, and a systematic effort should be made to analyze the current status of different endangered species of biodiversity. Secondly, Forest Stewardship Council, which was established in 1993, located in Germany, is a non-profitable multi-stakeholder organization which promotes responsible management of the world's forest. Their purpose is to manage forest responsibility at global level. So, partnering with these councils will help us to keep an account and how we can use our forest judicially for us, for our animals, for different species that stay there, and for the coming future. And lastly, I would like to say that I'm pretty sure we have all heard the famous saying, be the change that you want to see. Therefore, if we make small changes in our everyday lives and take responsibility and accountability, it will lead to a bigger transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And I really appreciate the last line of your presentation that small actions of taken by individual will bring about a change in the society or in the environment. Thank you once again for your stimulating presentation, and we sincerely appreciate your efforts for the same. The few takeaways from your presentation was that we should respect the right of the indigenous people, the tribal people. We should preserve and promote, elevate indigenous communities to the rightful place of prominence, which will help reduce deforestation. And I believe the only way forward is to invest in nature and focus on the green recovery to prevent not just the future pandemics, but as well as to prepare ourselves to fight ongoing environmental threats such as climate change and biodiversity collapse. Thank you once again. Now, moving ahead with the last speaker of today's talk show, I would like to call upon Ashmita, an independent thinker, an adaptable person, and who loves to cook vegan food and to do mindful yoga. So, over to Ashmita.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Asmita Singh, and I'm currently pursuing my master's in sociology from Maharaja Sayajirao University.
Ashmita, your from your side, we can hear the echo.
Is it okay now, ma'am?
Yeah, yeah.
Firstly, I would like to thank the IDYM Group Foundation. I would also like to thank Pooja ma'am and Virendra sir, who has been a remarkable mentor as well as teachers. Let me start by giving you a little introduction about terrestrial ecosystem. So here, as we can see, a terrestrial ecosystem is a land-based community of organisms and the interactions of biotic as well as abiotic components in a given area. These are characterized by greater temperature fluctuations on both a diurnal and seasonal basis that occur in aquatic ecosystems in similar climates. A habitat pertains to the natural ecological environment inhabited by a certain species. Moving on, now we'll look who are producers and consumers. Feeding relationships show what organisms eat or are eaten by others and through the levels of organization in an ecosystem. These can be shown in food chains which add together to make food webs for a habitat. At the base of almost every food chain is a producer. These are plants or algae which do photosynthesis. All animals above the producers are called consumers. The first is the primary consumer and the next is the secondary consumer. Now, let's take a look at what kind of role the consumers play in an ecosystem. So, the consumers gain their energy indirectly by consuming producers or other organisms that eat producers. They play a vital role in an ecosystem by regulating population growth of organisms and providing energy to other organisms. Moving on to the next slide. So we should we should boost the use of sustainable uh, terrestrial ecosystems, mainly through the fight against deforestation and soil degradation. It's our responsibility to repair the caused harm.
Now, moving to the next slide. Yes. So these are certain threats to the wildlife, which one way or the other lead to the extinction. First is poaching. The illegal hunting and harvesting of animals are the second biggest direct threat to species after habitat destruction. Wild animals are being poached on a massive scale, with millions of individual animals of thousands of species worldwide killed or captured from their native habitats. But ultimately, animal trafficking only happens because there's a market for it, right? Because poachers kill for profit. For an example, bear gallbladders and bighorn sheep antlers are worth top dollar for their so-called medicinal properties. Second is hunting. The historical impacts of human hunting on mammal populations have been well documented. All you need is to follow the timing of mammal extinction events to trace the footsteps of human arrival across the world's continents. When we arrived, large mammals soon disappeared. As we can recall, the dramatic decline of whale populations over the 20th century as a result of hunting. The blue whale was almost plunged into extinction, losing 99% of its members. Next we have is invasive alien species. So these are species that have been introduced either naturally, accidentally, or intentionally in an environment that is not their own. After a certain amount of time, they adapt to their new environment and begin to colonize it. Such species are the second biggest cause of loss of biodiversity in the world, according to the United Nations Development Program. Over a period of time, globalization has opened up new places, cultures, and people to us. However, it has also given us access to animal and vegetable species that are extremely harmful to the diversity. The last point is global warming. So, as scientists say, global warming is not only responsible for shrinking ice caps, but also for a surge in extreme weather that is causing heat waves, forest fires, and droughts. The polar bear, standing on a chunk of shrinking ice, apparently stranded, has become a familiar image, a symbol of devastating effects of climate change. Image is somewhat misleading since polar bears are powerful swimmers and climate change will primarily affect them by restricting access to prey. Nevertheless, researchers agree that even small changes in the temperature are enough to threaten hundreds of already struggling animals. For an example, increased sea ice melt and ocean acidification in the Arctic Ocean is reducing krill populations, leading to the threatening survival of whales, penguins, and seals that depend on krill as a primary food source. Moving on to the next slide. The graph slide, please. Next slide or the previous one?
The graph slide. Previous to previous slide. Previous to this. This. Thank you. Now, while talking about endangered species, I'd like to illustrate my point by showing you this graph. So here, as we can see, the number of threatened species is rapidly increasing. But while animals like critically endangered humpback dolphins are getting a lot of attention, the number of threatened mammals has not been rising as fast as other animal classes. So here, As you can see, the number of threatened mammals increased by only 21% between 2007 and 2020. During the same time period, the number of endangered insects rose by 209%, and the number of endangered mollusks has been rose by 135%. And if you see the blue mark, that is fish species, increased by 167%, while the number of endangered reptiles, that is the red one mark, is been rose by 245%. Next slide, please. Now, as we saw earlier, those basic four threads leads to the extinction. So recently, scientists warned that sixth mass extinction has probably started. And I noted that animals go extinct over a period of time. But in order to be a mass extinction event, the extinctions have to be within a similar time frame, which happens over the same time but can cover thousands of years. For example, if we take the current situation in which certain plants and animals have been extinct due to increasing human population. Next slide, please. Now, the climate change and human intervention are accelerating the planet's loss of biodiversity. So the question is, should we try to preserve useful bees before the cuddly tigers? The threatened extinction of the tiger in India, the perilous existence of orangutan in Indonesia, and the plight of the panda. These are wildlife emergencies with which we have become familiar. They are well-loved animals that no one wants to see disappear. But now, scientists fear that the real impact of declining wildlife could be closer to home. And this time, the cause isn't an errant asteroid or the mega volcanoes. It's us, the humans. Next slide, please. Moving on to the last part, a suggestion thought, which is minimalism and veganism. So minimalism, like veganism, is a lifestyle that puts into practice a personal philosophy. The less is more philosophy today is central to the minimalism movement. It's where veganism comes in. If minimalism is concerned with living with less for your spiritual well-being, then that extends to the impact you have environmentally. Minimalists consume less and buy less, meaning that their eco footprints are lighter. But limiting your consumption of animal products is one of the most significant ways of reducing your eco footprint, as animal-based products have greater emissions than plant-based products. Moreover, if you want your lifestyle to bring the most meaning it possibly can to your life, then the treatment of animals in various exploitative industries isn't going to bring you any joy. Most vegans are interested in environmental issues, as the environmental benefits of a vegan lifestyle are often significant imperatives to individuals making the transition. That being said, what brings most to a minimalist life varies from person to person. One minimalist may find plentiful meaning and joy in their life without being completely weak. Chances are they're already pondering how to continue to reduce their impact on the planet and live even more sustainably. Neither do minimalist vegans have some sort of upper hand over non-minimal vegans. There's no benchmark for how to live your life, but only the impulse to evaluate now and then how to be the best and most mindful person you can be. Lastly, I would like to say a few words from the lens of a minimalist that how recently humans have been craving for the solution and that being a real problem. So, most people want solutions because they're unwilling to dig down to the root of the problem, the real problem. So-called solutions are but inappropriate. Most how-to lists, step-by-step instructions, and habit change remedies are drugs that mask the symptoms, yet they compound the problem in the long run. What if, instead of numbing the pain, we sidestepped the solutions and scrutinized the problem itself? If your desk chair is aflame, reading the fire safety manual won't save you. The problem isn't a lack of instructions. The problem is your posture is on fire. If you own too much stuff, watching a 67 decluttering steps video won't help. The problem isn't the shortage of decluttering tips. The problem is the attachment to stuff. If you want to find tranquility, pondering the 7 habits of effective people won't bring you peace. The problem isn't your bad habits. The problem is thinking good habits will trigger joy. Solutions are seductive, but they rarely solve anything because chasing a fix removes our attention from the problem. It is only when we understand the fundamental nature of the problem that is eradicated. So, if you understand the why, the how takes care of itself. That'll be all from my side. But before I leave, I would like to share a gentle reminder to put biodiversity by preserving environment and loving species. Thank you for your patience and time.
Thank you so much, Ashmita. Few takeaways from your presentation. It was indeed a valuable information which you have just shared with us, and it will surely going to make a difference. As you just suggested that minimalism and veganism is the need of the hour. Something we can do to help include like recycling, eating a locally based diet that is sustainably sourced, consume only what we need, and limiting energy usage through efficient heating and cooling system. We must all respectful towards the wildlife and only take part in the ecotourism opportunities that are responsibly and ethically run in order to prevent wildlife disturbance. So, well managed, protected area support healthy ecosystem, which in turn keep people healthy. So, it is therefore critical to secure the involvement of all the local communities in the development and management of these protected areas. So, thank you so much, Ashmita. So, we have come to the end of this. So, today our students have talked on different targets of SDGs, which needs to be taken care. So, before we move to the solutions of the problem, we would like to summarize the entire SDG with the help of the video. May I have the video, Akansha?
Yes, ma'am.
Quickly. Thank you, Akansha. So change only happens when voices are raised. So by speaking together, we can be heard. So now we have come to the conclusion, we have come to the solution of the problem, and I would like to call upon Akansha, a meticulous girl who always listens to others' point of view and very compassionate. Thank you for being there, Akansha. Over to you, Akansha.
Thank you, ma'am. So, coming to the solution part of the problem, we need to understand that the definition of sustainability works as an important moral exhortation. They remind us of our responsibility to pass it on to our children and grandchildren a world with as many opportunities as we had. However, there is much confusion about how to build these sustainable societies. The key to this confusion is hidden within the realization that we need not invent sustainable societies from scratch, but they can be remodeled from our society, from nature's ecosystem, which is already which already has so many sustainable communities of plants, animals, and microorganisms. One such example we saw in the wolves video. Nature is inherently sustainable, and as it has sustained life long before humans found themselves on Earth. Thus, the need of the hour is that human communities remodel their ways of life, businesses, and economies in such a way that that is that does not interfere with nature's inherent ability to sustain life. Hence, sustainability does not mean that things do not change. It is a dynamic process of evolution, and we need to partner with other communities to achieve the sustainable development goals. Now, I would like to invite everybody present here to reflect upon this idea, like Al Gore, the former Vice President of the United States of America, has said, believe in the power of your own voice. The more noise you make, the more accountability you demand from your leaders, the more our world will change for better. So I would like you, everyone present here, to make noise and demand answers from your leaders and everybody around you and take accountability. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akansha. Indeed, we need to take actions together. We need to ensure that with today's inspirational talk, we have tried to highlight the positive actions we all can take. We can conserve our environment. We can think of a sustainable future with protecting the areas. We can just protect our nature, and we can bring out the solution at the heart of the greener economic stimulus for packages of the post-pandemic. Making peace with nature is the defining task of 21st century, and it must be on the top priority for everyone and every
we have to be sympathetic and empathic at the same time. And our guiding principles should be at the same time rationally, and as plus we have to understand from where they come, and this way we can improve our structures and then we can integrate them, because they are a part of us, they are a very important part of us, so we cannot totally remove them. But I said indigenous people should be given forests more to them, so that they can avoid deforestation, and they can preserve the land, as well as they can contribute to the economy as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul, for answering the query. And very rightly said, because they are integrated part of the forest and they know more about the forest. So thank you so much for solving the query. And thank you, IDM, and organizing such a wonderful conference for students. They are doing sociology when we put up such platforms. Thank you, Pooja ma'am, for encouraging our students to be part of this conference, and definitely we'll be meeting soon once again.
Yeah. We know, ma'am, next program, we know, you know that you have only suggested. We are going to do it definitely. And thank you, ma'am, for being there.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am, for this opportunity. Okay, bye-bye.
Any more questions? I think we can move ahead with the certification part. Oh, there is a suggestion by Radhika Sabnis that when we talk about veganism, the socio-cultural implication of adopting a lifestyle comes. So indeed, adapting a veganism is a bit difficult, but we will suggest that if you focus on that, we will be able to continue with that. Yes, Radhika, you can unmute yourself, Radhika.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, Radhika.
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask that what are the changes in policy and implementation that could help reduce incentives that lead to biodiversity loss and increase biodiversity investments?
Can you repeat your question, Radhika?
Yeah. What are the changes in policy and implementation that could help reduce incentives that lead to biodiversity loss and increase biodiversity investments?
Okay. Yeah. Students? How we can preserve the biodiversity? Anyone can answer? Yeah.
So, as there were many solutions given already by Ashmita, one thing I would like to add is that preserving the biodiversity is one of the important reasons, one of the important necessity of our time. So, apart from whatever the agencies are doing, we need to make sure that we cut down on some of the simple steps that I can think of right now is to cut down on, for example, leather. I mean, any small steps we can do to cut down poaching, hunting, and I think people, like I said, we need to take accountability. So people need to realize themselves, and until and unless that is done, I don't think anything can be put into motion. So that is something I would like to add from my side. Yeah.
Hi, Radhika. Adding to her point, so basically on December 16, 2021, India proposed amendments to the Biological Diversity Act of 2002 by introducing the Biological Diversity Amendment Bill 2021. Among other things, the act imposes on access and benefit sharing fees on company that use animal products, which the source of income of the company should be based on them. So this was something recently which came up. So I hope this helps you.
I think she has some internet issues. There's a question from one of the participants. Sir, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, ma'am.
Actually, I didn't know I would be allowed, so I sent it in the chat. I just got worried by the presentation you made, and it reminds me of what I saw in St. Louis when I traveled in 2019. The museum where they have, because of the recognition of the decline in the the, the, the biodiversity, they try to make artificial ones in there. And you'll be so amazed when you go and you see all kinds of, even cockroaches, they are breeding, lizards, they are breeding, trees, plants, ants, they are breeding in order to replenish. Now, my concern now is, how do we don't have to entrust that to the museums. How can we preserve biodiversity in our schools? How do we go about? Because if we're able to get it infused in our students from the early childhood, from the primary level to secondary, how do we do that so that we don't lose our biodiversity? Thank you.
A wonderful question. And I think Akansha is able to answer.
Yes, ma'am. So I could not hear that much, but from what I read in the chat, so as sociology students, it is in our blood to realize that school is one of the primary factors of agents of socialization. So it becomes very important for schools to introduce some kind of awareness drives, introduce chapters that include importance of biodiversity. And along with that, I think it is also important for teachers and students to just come forward and put things into action. Along with that, they can just take small steps like planting trees and celebrating Earth Day, awareness drives, etc. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Akansha, I truly agree that school is one of the agencies of socialization. And when these awareness programs are being done in school, we can inculcate the basic foundation to our young generation. So this is how education is helping us to build healthy humanity. And we need to think about how we can create new generation of citizens with a different kind of mindset. So with these programs, we can help our students, our budding scientists, or our budding students to come to know about the environmental problems. So with the help of education, a person can make his own way and we can help others to make their way. Thank you so much, Akansha. Thank you so much, participants, for being there. Uh, so now we have come to the last part, that is the certification part. Thank you once again, each one of you. Yeah, Asmita.
I'm sorry to break you, but there's a question in the chat box that I would like to answer. It's about veganism, I think.
Yeah. Please
So,
answer, Asmita.
yes. So, Radhika, I understand that vegan sources can be expensive and costly. But what we can do right now is start with small steps. Like, I'm not suggesting you go vegan directly. You can start with plant-based diet first, then you can go to vegan sources, that is soya and maize and all that. So what matters overall, that I'm saying, what matters is the small bits of it. So start with that, please. That'll be all. Thank you.
Yes, good suggestions. Indeed, vegan cost you a lot, so we can take small steps, and then we can start. Yeah. So now the certificate presentation. I would like to share my screen. Hope it is audible.
First National Conference on Sustainable Development Goals. Speaker Paul Thomas.
Congratulations, Thomas.
First National Conference on Sustainable Development Goals. Speaker Akansha.
Congratulations, Akansha.
First National Conference on Sustainable Development Goals. Speaker, Asmita.
Congratulations, Asmitha.
First National Conference on Sustainable Development Goals.